esta entrevista en donde en Fox, que por cierto ya despidió a Tucker Carlson, ya literalmente, porque pues este señor era su anchor estrella, su comentarista o su conductor de noticias, que estaba presentando, le llaman ellos, información disruptiva o información que no va de la mano con en este caso, con el establishment. Ya lo despidieron a este señor en Fox. Su nombre es Tucker Carlson. Pero bueno, lo que quiero mostrar es el argumento que le da su invitado. Dice, nosotros somos los que estamos provocando esta guerra, igual como provocamos la guerra en Ucrania. Y las razones que da son impresionantes. Son razones económicas. Me voy a callar para que vayan leyendo la traducción.
We're the ones provoking this war, just like we provoked the war in Ukraine. We are now provoking a war with China. And who benefits? I'll tell you right now. Your enemy is not China. Your enemy is not Russia. Your enemy is the military-industrial complex, which has been fleecing this country to the tunes of hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars.
Y gastan 880 mil millones de dólares por año en la cuestión militar, y que gastan más que los 10 países que le siguen con mayor gasto en filita India. Pues mucho de este dinero se entiende que ya no va para la salud, mucho de este dinero no va para infraestructura, mucho de este dinero se va al complejo militar industrial, y es lo que dice este invitado.
How many times are we going to have a defense secretary say, hey, we can't account for $2 trillion in the Pentagon again? Which has happened twice now in my lifetime. So again, people are being, the war machine cannot be stopped. Who's running this country? The war machine. It certainly isn't Joe Biden making these decisions. I would like to know who is making the decisions. And I just want to remind everybody, the United States is the world's terrorist. We just set the Middle East on fire in the last 20 years. And now we're doing a proxy war in Ukraine, which we provoked, NATO provoked, and was just admitted that we provoked it by the former prime minister of Germany. And now we're trying to saber rattle with China, and they're predicting a war. Again, China's not going to invade us. China's not our enemy. We might have an economic war. That's what these are. These are economic wars. These are wars in Ukraine. It's about liquefied natural gas and making sure Germany and Russia never and manpower, and we fear them getting together with Germany with their technology and their capital. And so that's why we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That's why we're doing the Ukraine war. This is all about hegemony, imperialism, and economics.
All right, let's get to it. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world right now. So Tucker Carlson, our good friend Tucker Carlson, everyone's wondering what in the world was he doing? What is he up to after his sudden and immediate departure from Fox News on Monday? Like, what the heck happened? He was getting ready to prepare for a show, and suddenly a message down from Rupert Murdoch or whatever is, we're done. And so a lot of people speculating as to what exactly happened. Well, Tucker came out and he didn't address specifically what happened, but did have a message. We can kind of like play it and talk a little bit about what this sort of corporate media message is. Mm-hmm. See if you can pick up some of the veiled commentary about corporate media, corporate press.
Okay, but if we're playing like Tucker Carlson bingo, like what are the reasons in which he left? You know, I've sort of been a little bit consumed by it in the last couple of days.
Well, he's such a close friend too. It's
yes, because we know him, they're family friends. Also because, as Russell Brand pointed out, the media is kind of obsessed with itself. So it's been so incestuous that you can't, as soon as you like dip a toe into it, it feels like a black hole. You're sucked right in. But if we have this sort of like bingo card of hypotheses, it would be the Dominion lawsuit. It would be transgenderism. These are the things that people Ukraine are saying war. As reasons.
Right.
Calling out the CIA, the FBI, Julian Assange.
January 6th.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of things on the bingo card. But my biggest hypothesis was that it was because he was anti-war. And that this was history repeating itself around the time when Phil Donahue was taken off the air as the marquee personality of another network. Well, so I just would like you to know, when we play this, what's the thing he mentions first? is it something that I can say I told you so about?
All right,
I'm just going to put it out there.
Let's roll it.
Good evening, it's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people, people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also, a lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated. And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources. When was the last time you heard a legitimate debate about any of those issues? It's been a long time. Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it. Suddenly, the United States looks very much like a one-party state. That's a depressing realization, but it's not permanent. Our current orthodoxies won't last. They're brain dead. Nobody actually believes them. Hardly anyone's life is improved by them. This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. The people in charge know this. That's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. They're resorting to force. But it won't work. When honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink, and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail. Where can you still find Americans saying true things? There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there is hope. See you soon.
So a lot of people speculating, see you soon. So what will that mean exactly? We don't know. I'm sure he's taking some time, enjoying some downtime. But let's just unpack what he said there, right? I mean,
the first thing he lists is war. Some of the things that people are afraid of you having legitimate conversations about. He does say war. Now, I mean, is that enough for me to take a victory lap? No. But he mentions a bunch of different things and talks about how people are afraid of hearing them. So who is afraid of hearing them?
Well, the Pentagon. So the Politico released an article yesterday. I love, Politico, which of course is just a mouthpiece of the military-industrial complex and the intelligence state. Politico releases an article yesterday saying that the top brass at the Pentagon are pleased. The top brass at the Pentagon, the military-industrial complex, are happy that Tucker was pushed out at Fox. Of course they are. To which Tucker responded because Politico wanted a comment, and Tucker just responded via text to one of the Politico reporters and just said, "Ha, I bet." Exactly. So, of course he is, because he was very critical of Mark Milley. He's been very critical of how the military has been moving towards, is becoming ideological rather than an actual fighting force.
Yes. He's willing to say that Zelensky is trolling America for money. And, that's an unpopular opinion.
He's also been very critical, even going back to my time sitting on the couch with him and co-anchor. When he went to Iraq and he saw the horrors of seeing what happened to the soldiers and women specifically who were fighting in Iraq, he's like, no, moms, women should not be fighting on the front lines of these wars that these men are creating. It should not happen. It's disgusting, and it shows a military in decline. And you can say what you want about women fighting in wars and all that. If you agree with it, great. But his point was, no, we should not be doing that. If men are creating this, men should fight it. And all these women who were coming home maimed and just loss of limbs and just awful. So he's been very critical. He's gone viral from Jose Vega. He confronted the editors of the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, and Reuters before being thrown to the ground by the dean of Columbia University, thrown to the floor for asking tough questions about the Nord Stream pipeline, Seymour Hersh, about journalism in general, and why why these newspapers are refusing to cover one of the biggest stories of the last century. Watch this video.
One with Seymour Hersh because it's a policy and press hall event. So shouldn't we be talking about the Nord Stream since that's the biggest story of the century? And you guys, you know, I mean, you have the executive editor of the New York Times there who came out with a phony story to try and block Seymour Hersh. It's just kind of funny how that happened, you know? I mean, did you even acknowledge Seymour Hersh? All of you are executive editors of papers that broke Pentagon, My Lai, Watergate. Is this the same papers or not? I mean, is there anything you've gotten right in the last 20 years, or am I mistaken about that? I mean, it's just kind of funny because Iraq, wrong. Syria, wrong. Russiagate, really wrong. Okay, I mean, the list goes on and on. So the last thing you could do to try and actually fix your reputation is acknowledge that through leaks, we had to find out that Zelensky was going to bomb Moscow on the anniversary. I mean, if you're so impartial, shouldn't you at least say, right, that Zelensky was going to bring us on the verge of World War III? That seems pretty fair. While Julian Assange rots in prison, all of you got, you know, fat checks because he's in jail for doing your job. And you know what? Tucker Carlson ain't no Seymour Hersh, but he did something you guys are scared to do. Speak the truth and actually be critical of the war, which is why he was actually fired from Fox, because you are all cowards, every single one of you. None of you have actually had any relevancy. And you know what? The mainstream press is now dying. Nobody's ever going to listen to you again. You have no credibility with the public. The only people who care about what you have to say are elite assholes who have nothing productive to say anymore, and it's dying off. So will you at least say something, either about Nord Stream or Ukraine or the fact that Zelensky brought us to the verge of World War III, and the only reason we knew about that was through leaks? Go ahead. It's a free speech event, right? You guys are the press. Let's say something here. Mr. Khan, come on. You know, you're the executive editor of the New York Times, you know. I'm just trying to get into some good trouble here, man. Ooh, listen, Karen, get out of my face for a second. I got to talk to these gentlemen. Okay. Well, I just want to hear what they have to say. Go ahead. I'm done.
Wait your turn. Wait your turn.
You're not talking to you. Come.
Wait your turn.
You could project if we can't.
I would just say I think it's important to hear everybody's point of view.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right.
I do think that we need to give our moderator a chance to ask other questions.
We're on the verge of World War III.
Some of the people in the audience also do so. Thank you. Really, thank you.
Say something about this bombing. We blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Listen, don't stand there while there are people rotting in prison. Nobody said anything about Uhuru, right? The socialists who are in jail for being critical of this war. God damn it.
Why don't we move on?
I have to know, what is it like to be the last black president?
Seriously? What's it like for this to be the last time you ever talk to a president?
It must kind of stink, though, that you can't run, 3 times.
No, actually, I think it's a good idea. If I ran a third time, it'd be sort of like doing a third Hangover movie. Didn't really work out very well, did it? Now, I have to say that I've seen this show before, and some of the episodes have probably been